Seguimos en CARICAM 2015 haciendo la cobertura de vídeos sobre este congreso que se está celebrando en la ciudad de Miami para entender mejor la idiosincrasia del mercado caribeño y ver también si podemos aprender algo de este mercado, si algo aplica para el resto de América Latina o viceversa, si algo de América Latina en algún momento puede aplicar como lección para el mercado caribeño. Estamos con Phil. Phil, welcome to telesemana.com. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So Ericsson is here, as it's in pretty much all the events that I attend myself. So what is the message here in CARICAM, given the fact that usually we consider the Caribbean to be a very particular market, complicated one, because we have many markets in just one area. So I don't know if your message deviates when you come here versus what you tell other operators in other regions in the world.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for inviting me, and I appreciate you taking the time out, right? Ericsson's message here, what we're trying to focus on is enhancing the customer experience, right? What we've seen is, and some of this from the Caribbean, you know, it lags some of the major markets like Europe and the United States, right? But it's still close. And what we're seeing in some of the Caribbean markets is, despite having great KPIs, we're having an issue with customer experience. And so what we're trying to do, right, is take some of the lessons learned out of Europe and the United States and bring it here to the Caribbean in terms of things to do to enhance the customer experience.
So you would say that the Caribbean, because we're seeing this all over the place, like users are complaining about the service despite the fact that operators keep investing in new networks and new technologies. So you're seeing that the Caribbean is no different in that regard.
There's a lot of similarities, and what we find is with the growth of data, the more capacity you put in the networks, it gets used up at a
quickly,
quick rate, right? And so that's very similar to the mature markets as well.
Okay, what would be those lessons? You mentioned that we're trying to bring lessons we learned in Europe or the US to the Caribbean. What are those lessons you can translate?
One of them, I think it's clearly appropriate, is measuring the customer experience from the customer's perspective, right?
Okay.
Seeing what happens in terms of when a customer tries to download or stream a video, right? How long does it take? Does he get any buffering on the phone, right? Those are the kinds of things that can retard or take away from the customer experience. So what we found is like 5% of people leave within the first 2 seconds of buffering, and you get 50% leave after 10 seconds of buffering. And the object here is to work with the operator to reduce that time of video buffering so that the customer experience is better.
Now you mentioned the KPIs, and it seems sometimes that the KPIs are kind of under attack, because for the reasoning that you're saying, like, okay, we're concentrating so much on the KPIs, but are those KPIs actually translating what the user is experiencing? Is that an issue?
Yes, because KPIs a lot of times are from the operator's perspective, right? And that's why we're trying to make this transition to look at the consumer's perspective, right? What is the consumer really experiencing on their handset? We can have KPIs that are very good and keep the network green, but the customer is seeing something else, right? Yeah. And so those are the kinds of things we're trying to address. One of those things may be, let's say a customer has a 3G phone, but he attaches to the 2G network. That can enhance the performance of video, or that could impact, the performance of video, because you're going to get a slower video experience than if you were on a 3G network, right? Similarly, if a customer is has an LTE phone and is attached to a 3G network, that impacts the experience as well. So those are the kinds of things we're working with operators to address so that we can enhance their experience.
So does that mean that, not that we have to get rid of KPIs, obviously they are important still, but what type of parameters and how do we prepare the network to make sure to measure those other parameters that are not within the KPIs that would allow us to say, okay, the user is having issues with video streaming because of whatever?
Yeah, there's no one parameter, and there's no quick fix in this, right? There's a series of parameters that you tweak in this exercise, and sometimes it may also mean too that you develop both a multi-technology and multi-band strategy to be able to address the customer needs, right? What we find is using these things in the network helps the customer experience. knowing that spectrum is perhaps the most expensive commodity in the operator's budget, you try to maximize the spectrum itself so that operators can ensure customers have a better experience.
Now, can we actually enhance the user experience without controlling the handset? I mean, is the network just enough to actually know what's happening with the user, or at some point we also need to be able to get inside the handset as well?
At some point you do look at responses from the handset in some cases, but you realize you don't own the handset per se, right? You're getting data and responses from the handset that will tell you what the experience is with the customer.
So you don't need to actually, so the network is enough to measure those parameters, you would say?
And the network is mostly enough, but some cases you need to, you're still getting the data from the handset, okay, right? So once you identify the data from the handset, you go and you are able now to tweak parameters, add features, and those kinds of things, or optimize features, or even sometimes optimize the spectrum itself so that the customer gets a better experience. What we're also finding too is some of these poor experience are based on a mobile customer using a handset indoor. And so part of the strategy is also addressing indoor coverage, right? You may be aware that Ericsson is on or has embarked on several programs to address indoor coverage, right? Because we feel that is a critical point for customers, still having a mobile phone but being indoor and not having the required or expected experience.
Excellent. Well, just to finalize, I'm going to make you work as a journalist and tell us if you can give us a headline on what was your presentation about here at the Congress, or perhaps the title of the presentation itself might work as a nice headline.
I guess the headline for us is enhancing the customer experience, right? I think that's foremost in Ericsson's mind in terms of we have this. We've talked about this, the network society, where we're saying they're going to be by 2020 they're going to be 6.2 billion, 50 billion devices connected on the network, right? And so driving towards this, what we need is not so much coverage, but the quality of the experience itself, right? Because we've been able to design these networks so far with so much coverage, right? But now what we need to do is ensure that there's ubiquitous experience, no matter whether the customer is indoor or outdoor.
Well, you mentioned the indoor, and some people are arguing that networks need to be planned from the inside to the outside instead of the outside to the inside. Is that something that Ericsson is also kind of promoting, or not completely?
No doubt there must. I would say there are layers of coverage and capacity you address, right? What we've done is started from the macro, which was there already, right? Yeah. And as you extend the macro network, you extend the network and the capability, both the capacity and coverage indoor, to have the same experience. Let's say, for instance, today, 1 meg per average download speed is acceptable, but on our 3G network. But we're going towards a LT network where the requirement is 10 megs average download speeds. And those are the kinds of things you need to have, whether you're outside or inside. That needs to be seamless to the customer.
Excellent. Well, Philip, thank you so much for being here today with this interview, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right. Take care. All right.